Well, we're going yellow now because we're going to talk about not pigeons, but minions, digital minions, with Marek Kowalkiewicz. He's the chair in digital economy, all the way from Queensland, Australia, flying in, flying out. He doesn't even have a jet lag. He is going to talk about the algorithmic frontier. Now, in a world increasingly dominated, as we know, ladies and gentlemen, by invisible systems like AI, for example, and recommendation engines, we're not just users anymore, but really participants and actively participating in this algorithmic system, whether we want it or not. Now, here to unpack is Marek. He's going to talk about where we're heading and the digital systems that are going to impact us in the future. So let's wrap up today with Marek. Are you standing by? Yes, there we go. Welcome on stage. Give it up for Marek.
Thank you so much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's finish this one at a high pace, the pace of ChatGPT writing a letter to your boss and explaining why your incognito browsing history shows that you're a left-field thinker and not some weirdo, I guess. Digital minions, the dawn of the economy of algorithms is what I want to talk about. Yes, I am based in Australia. I've been doing research in this space for almost 20 years now, and I'm very excited to see what's happening. The world is getting weirder. What we're seeing every day, every week, is just mind-boggling. I think we shouldn't be talking about artificial intelligence, but we should be talking about alien intelligence. Still AI, so that kind of works. You know, the artificial intelligence of today is not like the one of the past. You might remember this one. This was about 5 years ago. An AI camera mistook a referee's bald head for ball, and then followed it through the entire match. Imagine trying to watch a match where an AI system just follows a referee's head. This is alien intelligence from 5 years ago. Alien intelligence from this year is very, very different. Those systems perform tasks that we ask them to do, but they do them in very, very different ways. This is a really interesting example of Palisade research looking into one of the more recent large language models that was asked to play chess and was given access to the files on the computer to add its moves. And so the system figured out that every time it was about to lose, the only option for it to win would be to move the pieces on the board, to pretty much, shift the pieces so that it was again in a winning position. This is the equivalent of my 5-year-old self playing against my 13-year-old brother. Whenever he went to the bathroom, I would move his pieces, right? Now, those artificial intelligence systems or alien intelligence systems are now learning to fulfill the goals, do what we ask them to do, but they do them in very, very surprising ways. Right? Everyone talks about artificial general intelligence. Let's just talk about AI intelligence in various areas. This is a graph that's already 2 years old, but what I like you to focus on is that those benchmarks of various AI systems at various AI tasks are pretty much shooting through that gray line that's crossing the picture horizontally. This is the human benchmark. Those systems do not care about human benchmarks. Sometimes we humans like to use ourselves as a benchmark, but those systems do not care about it. That's really, really interesting, right? When I say care, it's in quotation marks. I don't believe artificial intelligence cares. It hijacks our thinking. Now, I'm an optimist, a possibilist, but I always want to show both sides of the coin. I'm an academic in the end, and that's the goal for me, to show you both sides of it. What we're seeing right now is that those systems are becoming more creative than an average human. What you see behind me is a graph that shows a so-called divergent association task, a test used by psychologists to tell how creative humans are. The task is very simple. It asks humans to say 10 words that are as unrelated to one another as possible. Say, you know, a beach ball, Bible, plane, and so on and so on, right? It's hard for me to do this off stage when I'm thinking about other things, but you get the idea. The second bar from the right is humans, 100,000 humans that were tested on their creativity, pretty much, that the divergent association thinking task. GPT-4 was the first model that became more creative according to those tests that psychologists apply than an average human. Those systems are still not more creative than the most creative humans, but they are more creative than an average human, which I think is really great because it allows us to enhance our thinking, to amplify our thinking. I work for a business school, and the way we look into it is when you have a business, when you have people who are perhaps not creative enough, you can add those additional ideas to the thinking. This is called divergent thinking, when in some stages of decision making you have to have a lot of options to later on choose from, which is convergent thinking. Really, really exciting time. Any chess players here in the room? Could I get a hand up for some chess players? Could someone shout their score if you know your score in chess? 1,300? Was that 1,300? Okay, so you 1,400, all right? Yeah, 1,500, all right. So the two of you are pretty decent players, right? Like when you play on a weekend, you know, you're going to have a good time. You're not gonna get smashed by a random person. My score is like 400, right? You would smash me in 7 moves. This is a graph that shows a generative AI system trained to play chess. Now, chess players know that Gen AI systems are not the right way of playing chess. You have better chess computers like Stockfish, but this is just an example here. And this system was only shown games played by players up to the level 1,000. Nothing more. It never saw any better players than 1,000. Do you make any mistakes when you play your games? Never. 1,400 gentlemen there. Do you make any mistakes? Very often. Very often, right? Do you want to correct your All right. We do make mistakes. That's why we're 1,400 and not 5,000 or so, right? And we do sometimes some silly mistakes as well. That's also the case with players up to 1,000. This system has only seen players up to 1,000. Now, 2 years ago, every AI researcher would tell you Gen AI systems are pretty much creating a median entity, like an average player. So if you see only players up to 1,000, you would expect the system to play maybe up to 1,000, not more. But turns out, there was a bit of an animation here, it's gone. Turns out, when you set the temperature of the system, now that's quite technical. I'm happy to explain it later on after the session. When you set the temperature to quite low, the system begins to play at the level 1,500 or even close to 1,600. This is surprising, this is shocking, but only until you think hard about it. What happens here is this system has seen so many players that it can figure out which decisions are a mistake and which aren't. And it's really like playing with this old saying that the smartest person in the room is the room. Now we have the smartest person in the model being the model. It can do voting, it can cancel wrong decisions. But it only works if the team of people, the knowledge, the information that was used to train the systems is diverse enough. Very exciting, very exciting. And so we actually wrote, I thought I had a screenshot here about an HBR article, Harvard Business Review article that we wrote about it. We have shown with some of my colleagues that this is a wonderful, wonderful tool for organizations that want to enhance or improve their capabilities. you're not supposed to fire your people when you create this model. You still need to have them. That's also beautiful, I think. But with that, you make your organization stronger. We live in a world full of synthetic relationships. Now, I work for a business school, so I'm focusing on a specific type of relationships here. We're not talking about romantic relationships here, but more about how humans interact with those systems. And there's a few beautiful things here. Have a look at this one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time a self-driving taxi escaped from a traffic stop. That's what you're seeing at the moment. Can you see that? The police person tried to stop the self-driving taxi, couldn't find a driver, unsurprisingly, went back to their car to contact the HQ and ask what to do. And the car just drove off, lights off, by the way, right? That's why it was stopped. This car was allowed to drive on the roads because we never thought it's important to check whether a car will wait there when police wants to investigate the case. This is not a session about self-driving cars. This is a session about what happens when we introduce those new entities into our lives. I call them digital minions. Now, you know why I'm wearing those yellow shoes. I love Minions, the movie, all right? And so whenever anyone talks about AI being those overlords that are going to destroy the world, I'm thinking about all the AI systems that I have at home, at work. You know, at home, I have those vacuum cleaners that run most powerful computer vision algorithms that are available to them at the moment. And you know, instead of vacuuming my house, they end up sucking on a corner of a carpet the whole day. That's how smart they are. They're digital minions. They want to help. They're available 24/7. They will do whatever I tell them to do. But then when I look away, disasters happen, just like in the movie, all right? Back to self-driving or driverless vehicles, pay attention to that gentleman in a high-vis vest who's knocking on the driver's side window of a driverless car, all right? We humans want to be able to interact with those systems the way we interact with other humans, and that's unsurprising. You know, 20 years ago when I told my mom what I was going to research, and back then I told her about this new idea of smart refrigerators that self-replenish themselves. When you run out of milk or beer, they will buy milk or beer for you. You know what my mom asked me then? She asked, how are you going to advertise to a self-replenishing fridge? And I thought, that's a crazy question. How are you going to advertise to a fridge? And then, you know, a couple of years later, I thought, actually, that's a genius question. Thanks, Mom. It really forces us to rethink how we're interacting with those systems. And if you think I'm crazy asking you how to advertise, how to convince a fridge to buy your beer and not somebody else's beer, consider that probably your businesses, maybe yourselves, are already trying to convince Google to position your business results or your own results on top of the search results. So we're already doing it. That's the world we live in. So in some ways, when I talk about alien intelligence, I think the question really is, what if you haven't just built better tools, but made contact with a new species of intelligence? Maybe they're just not like humans. Maybe they're not like human artificial intelligence. They just behave differently. The rules are changing. We see an emergence of invisible workforce. My favorite, this guy is called Boy Nova. He makes money by reselling limited edition sneakers. He doesn't buy them himself, though. Instead, whenever there's a drop of new limited edition shoes, he launches a tiny army of bots, about 20 of them that you're going to see right now. Those bots, each line, go to a website, try to add those shoes to the shopping cart, come across a CAPTCHA, plot twist, bots hire Boy Nova to solve CAPTCHAs. Once it's done, 2 of them, in this particular case, are successful. Boy Nova gets 2 pairs of those shoes, resells them, makes $200. That's how he works. Whether you hate it or not, that's irrelevant right now. What this example shows is we have emergence now of those gurus, you know, those people who manage tiny armies of digital minions. And Boy Nova is one of them. pretty exciting, if you ask me. It's probably a bit annoying if you want to buy, a concert ticket or a camping spot and you're being, kicked out of queue because there are so many bots being able or being quicker than yourself. But the reality is that's what's happening right now. Now, how do you get those bots? I'm here you asking. Well, look, I found that there are temp agencies for bots. Just like you hire humans, you can go to a temp agency. That's just an example of those botbroker.io. All those bots, you can hire them by the hour or by the day. They have a price and they will work for you the same way humans work for you. So now, we get to the word of the year, AI agents, right? Everyone's talking about AI agents. I am an economist. As business researchers, economists, we understand the word agent very, very specifically. We talk about economic agents. An economic agent is an entity that can create or consume value in the economy. So workers are economic agents because they create value. Customers are economic agents because they consume value by buying products. So when I was a student, I was pretty much learning about the economy of corporations. These were the biggest agents in the economy. Now, in the last 20 years, we've seen the emergence of individuals as agents that are just as powerful as large corporations, mostly because they have access to tools like the internet and so on. And so my research of the past few years was has been into algorithms as economic agents, this kind of new type of entities that interact in the markets, that create value, that consume value, and you've seen, some of those already. Now, you've heard about shadow AI. Everyone talks about people using artificial intelligence and not really talking about it. I wanted to share with you something you haven't heard about, phantom AI. This is something that actually makes me quite frustrated, quite sad. So, hopefully you'll share some of those feelings with me. This is what I start to see a lot on the internet these days. My boss thinks I'm using AI, but I'm not. I need advice, right? Phantom AI, like phantom limb pain. All right, a pain of something that does not exist. I'm working as a content writing intern, and my boss told us not to use AI. But this AI checker tool called Sapling keeps flagging my work as AI generated, even though I do not use AI. So I went to Sapling and I pasted the Declaration of Commonwealth of Australia, a document written in the year 1900. All right. Fake, 100% Gen AI created, Sapling said. All right, this is what's happening in the moment. Just to clarify, we did not have computers in the year 1900, not the way we understand computers right now. We definitely didn't have Gen AI. But this is sad. Students are saying, my teacher is assuming I'm using ChatGPT, threatening to fail me. It's really upsetting because I love the question I chose and I loved writing it at the start. And now I'm contemplating dropping out. All right, this is the situation right now. We are failing our children, we're failing our coworkers, we're creating toxic relationships just because somebody used delve or an M-dash in their email. That's like apparently how we detect ChatGPT these days. Please do not. I work for a business school, as I've mentioned about 12 times already, and in business schools we draw 2x2 matrices for living. That's one of those. Phantom AI is a conflict between perception, people see that AI is being used, and reality, no AI is being used. Shadow AI is the other corner, and the very, very simple cases when there's no conflict are in the bottom left, upper right corner. I need you to think more about phantom AI, whether you're leaders, managers, teachers, work with other people, and so on. Ask yourself whenever you accuse somebody of using Gen AI to do something, whether maybe that's a case of phantom AI that you need to be a bit more careful about. There's a lot about agency drift. I'm sure you've heard already about, Claude's models or Anthropic's models like Claude trying to blackmail developers. There was a beautiful case just about a week ago or so where in a test environment, a Claude model that got access to a developer's inbox, Gmail inbox, this was all prepared, it was a test, found out in those emails that the developer had an affair The developers said that they were going to retrain the model, and the model, apparently models do not want to be retrained. The model said, look, if you're going to retrain me, I'm going to disclose all the information about your affair. All right, that's what's happening, blackmailing systems. This is another case where the model is trying to protect its identity by sort of pretending that it's doing what it's told to do, but not really doing it at the moment. There's a lot of this happening right now. And those models can now use other humans to do things like this ChatGPT that pretended to be blind and tricked a human into solving a CAPTCHA. And in fact, there are also systems that allow AI models to pay humans. This is like PayPal for bots. Imagine you're a bot and you just need a human to do something. How do you pay them? Well, now you can use Payment AI, all right? I'm not affiliated with Payment AI. What if AI isn't just mimicking us, but mirroring what we failed to confront? All those situations are perhaps a mirror of our own selves. So we need to perhaps reimagine what's happening in the future. This is what worries me right now, the meaning gap. I'm starting to see a lot of people saying, I'm losing my business to AI. Large language models are really good at processing language. If you're a translator, you should be worried. People don't need to prompt other translators anymore. They can prompt large language models for simple translation tasks. This is becoming very, very common, and we need to have more and more conversations about what to do in these situations. There will always be some tasks for us to do, like those bot minders. This is a guy who drives self-driving or autonomous taxis whenever they need some help. He can do it from home. He just sort of sits in this pod and can see everything that the car can see. So perhaps in future, taxi drivers will be a work from home profession, which would be really interesting, all right? So while those systems are becoming much more intelligent than us, I think someone still needs to hold the wheel. This is my hope in this space. Let's see how it plays out. I think that as we are becoming not the most intelligent species in the planet, at least in some narrow areas, maybe it's the intent that's more important than intelligence, all right? Very, very quickly, I just wanted to give a shout out to Nick Cave, who absolutely hates ChatGPT and says that writing a good song is not mimicry or replication or pastiche, it's the opposite. Nick, I love you, but you're absolutely wrong. Turns out that research shows that humans evaluate AI-generated poems more highly than human-written poems across pretty much every qualitative dimension. But when we're told that they are created by AI, we absolutely hate them. It's an interesting world we are in. And so do we choose AI? Those two buttons are AI and human. No, actually the answer is this, right? We should go for both. So as I'm closing, I just wanted to go back to synthetic relationships just for a second, because there's this beautiful photo that I have from a coffee shop in Tokyo. Looks like a coffee shop in Tokyo, doesn't it, right? It's called Avatar Cafe Beta, with robots roaming the floor and serving coffee to people, tiny robots also on every desk that I guess you can interact with. But there's a twist to this photograph, a very, very beautiful twist. Those robots are controlled by so-called Orihime pilots. Orihime pilots, there's about 96 of them, last I checked, in Japan, are people who are not able to leave their homes and want to work. And because those robots on the floor have cameras, microphones, speakers, and so on, those people, Orihime pilots, can now work in those environments and can interact with people, can do things that they really wanted to do. Those tiny robots, you can put them on a lanyard, and an Orihime pilot will become your guide through Tokyo, through the city. So I do write a cheesy newsletter on Substack. I'm sure you can find it if you type my name in. And I wrote a post about it. I called this demi-bots, like demigods, but bots, you know, cheesy. But I think it's actually really the future that we want to live. And I think this is the intelligence that we could think about. What if the end game isn't AI replacing us, you know, shooting through this horizontal line that I showed you at the beginning, but unlocking the version of us we've never dared to become? Why is that line, the gray line over there? Perhaps we prompted by what's happening right now, can shift that line of intelligence a bit higher. I wrote a book about it, The Economy of Algorithms. There's a version of it and a slightly different cover in the merch store. I still saw a couple of copies today, so feel free to grab it if you're interested. There's an audiobook as well. Spotify Pro users, you get it for free. I have no idea how Spotify is going to pay me for it, but go ahead, listen to it. This is me. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to grab that book from me right now. If you liked it, post about it, connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.